I enjoy a spirited ride as much as the next girl, but...
Who's that?
The next girl.
As much as I hope you're enjoying the ride, I'd like to welcome you once again to my 5th review of perhaps the longest running film series based on Ian Fleming's James Bond 007. I've been having a lot of fun doing these, and I hope you've had fun watching them too. Every film that I've reviewed so far represented a changing phase that this series went through with every passing decade, so let's continue the 007 body count. Our next stop on the timeline is in 1994 with Goldeneye, the first film not to draw its story from the pages of the Fleming novels. Goldeneye was the first Bond movie to be released after the dissolution of the Soviet Union. The Cold War had ended and the Berlin Wall was taken down. The world had changed considerably, posing a major challenge to the filmmakers of this series, with Goldeneye serving as more than a testament that they were up to the challenge. The film's title pays homage to Fleming himself. While in naval intelligence, Goldeneye was the code name of a mission he was involved. Years later, while writing the Bond novels, he would develop the stories for the books at his home retreat in Jamaica, which he called Goldeneye. This was the last film of the series that Derek Meddings worked on. The film was dedicated to him, as a matter of fact. He was the special effects wizard responsible for all miniatures, for exterior shots and landscapes, building shots, and land, sea, or air vehicles. To this day, he remains a legacy in the Bond film series. If anything, if you look at the film's opening title sequence, this was the first of the series to make use of CGI imaging. Daniel Kleinman took use of it and incorporated the texture of the changing times depicting the fall of communism. Another thing that indicated the sign of changing times was the use of technology for this film. More in point, Microsoft's OS2 Warp Splash screens, a new operating system making use of window screens granting easy access to files and programs on a computer with far less time consumption. Even the concept for the first landmark console first-person shooter game was actually for this movie, and it was for the Nintendo 64 game system. It revolutionized the gaming genre into what it is now. Single-player interactives, multiplayer maps, and headshot capability made it the holy grail of action video games for many gamers to this very day. Computers were changing everything, and with the Bond series, Goldeneye ushered in a new phase of automation and technology. Even the soundtrack was much more contemporary than its predecessors and the films that came after it. Eric Serra's score was viewed negatively by many, however it gave the movie a very unique quality, adding to the feel of the modernistic era that the main character entered into. Incidentally, this is the first Bond film where you don't hear the main theme played throughout the soundtrack or score as you watch the movie. Being the oldest director in the history of the film series, Martin Campbell helmed 2 Bond films, Goldeneye and Casino Royale. Pretty tough to work for. Brosnan regarded him as warrior-like, as he channeled it as a passion to really direct and make this film.
You don't like me, Bond. You don't like my methods. You think I'm an accountant. A bean counter, more interested in my numbers than your instincts.
The thought had occurred to me.
Good. Because I think you're a sexist, misogynist dinosaur. A relic of the Cold War.
In a different world with different attitudes, in this film it's the women that show it. It was always the talent on or off screen with these films that always amazed me. The first female actress to play the role of M, Judi Dench, created a character with whom this film series could not do without. A very diverse actress in film, television, and theater, Judi Dench won an Academy Award for Best Actress in the film Mrs. Brown. Within the span of films that she appears within the Bond film series, she's a mentor of sorts to the main character. one could say almost maternal. Incidentally, the idea for her to play the role was based on Stella Remington, the real-life head of British intelligence at that time, from 1992 to 1996.
They're going. But don't stand there, get us out of here!
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like I said before, the women really show a lot of attitude in this film, unlike a lot of the previous Bond films that came before it. As the Bond girl of this film, Isabella Scorupco plays Natalia Simonova, a first-level guidance system programmer. But she shows a lot more than brawn or beauty. She's very resourceful and really adds a lot to this film.
This time, Mr. Bond, the pleasure will be all mine.
This chick gave the film a wild flavor as perhaps the most memorable henchwoman I've ever seen. Appearing in numerous roles from all ends of the spectrum, from X-Men to Nip and Tuck, Famke Janssen plays an assassin for hire driven by sadism. The character is almost like a very youthful Colonel Klebb from Rush with Love. Her character's trademark in this film is found by the smile left on late gentlemen. Sean Bean plays the Bond villain, who's the first of which ever in the series to be an ex-MI6 agent, but in the end turns out to be something a lot more. Soon to be dead, 10 years later, Bond finds out that he's Jenis, the head of a Russian crime syndicate, and a Cossack descended from World War II heritage linked to the Russian betrayal. A truly awesome actor, spanning a very lengthy career appearing in The Lord of the Rings, The Game of the Thrones. Directors always praise working with him because of how he can immediately go in and out of character at will. His character in this film is part of a major conspiracy with Colonel Aramov to hijack the main component that controls the Goldeneye satellite, which can emit electromagnetic blasts from orbit, which can destroy major cities in order to hold England for ransom.
Thank you, Mr.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
One can truly say that Remington Steele was a practice run or precursor of sorts for 007 for Pierce Brosnan. Able to deliver the charm, wit, and sophistication of Roger Moore, while at the same time the strength and tough action of Sean Connery, both traits stood out in a way audiences could believe and accept, assuring Brosnan for 3 more films. Paving the way for a reputable background in masterpiece theater, for which he acquired a Golden Globe nomination, and of course Remington Steele. With persistence, he was always in consideration for this role, as far back as For Your Eyes Only. Much like Moonraker, the engine that drove the story behind Goldeneye was technology. Only in this case, computer technology via online communication on a global scale. Raising the stakes, making high demands with ransoms backed with a threat of total destruction and annihilation on a global scale. This is the first Bond film in which the main component behind the villainous plot is a hacker. Played by versatile actor Alan Cummings, Boris Krishenko was a clear indication of how fast the growing trend of computer technology was changing everything, as his keyboard was mightier than the sword. If there's anything that hasn't changed about these films at all up to this point, it's the death-defying stunts. This stunt was performed by Wayne Michaels. It was voted the greatest movie stunt of all time in 2002 in a Sky Movies poll. It set a record as the highest bungee jump at 720 feet off a platform. Now, there's a part in this film where he makes a cameo as one of the pilots of the Euro Tiger copter. His character gets shot by Xenia Onatopp, who winds up hijacking it. In this scene is B.J. Worth, the stuntman who dived after the plane, which was a fully functioning aircraft. The hardest part, as he recollected later on, was kerosene flying in his face. Overall, Goldeneye was the film that breathed new life into this series. Within a 5-year hiatus after License to Kill, many didn't think these films could top the numbers they used to, but I certainly did. Goldeneye went on to become the highest-grossing Bond film ever up until Casino Royale, Aside from having an impact on the gaming genre in the 90s, it also boasted effective product placement for BMW Z1 Roadster. Ultimately, this was the year that Bond came back.
Gun! I am invincible!
Well, that makes the body count 5. I hope you enjoyed this review. There are 2 more to go that I will be posting pretty soon, adding to 7. 007, that is, with fun facts and thrills that'll leave you shaken, but not stirred. Ciao.